The whole thing started with the project that's down there on that wall. What happened was, with the concept of Twitter and Facebook and all that sort of stuff, and those social networks getting a bad rap for kind of reducing creativity. For like the way we communicate with people has become shorter, more immediate, lots of text messaging, all that sort of stuff. And Facebook and Twitter for a while were getting a bad rap for saying, well, no one's being creative anymore because everyone has to communicate in short messages rather than taking the time to create anything real or big. So what a friend of mine and I decided, Frank Kelly, his mate of mine lives in Ireland, we met at a film festival a few years ago, is that he said, okay, so Twitter has 140 characters, forces everyone to be within that subset, very strict, very, like, you can't really say much, you can't be creative, let's prove them wrong. So what he wanted to do is, within the space of 140 seconds, assemble a team of 140 filmmakers around the globe to create something within that time frame, within that construct, within those constraints. So for me, my 140-second project, I decided to shoot stills. And I've been shooting Polaroids for over 10 years, and just love the medium. When I found out earlier this year that they'd stopped making it, I stockpiled a lot of it because I wanted to continue to shoot it, and I wanted to continue to document how it's been becoming more and more stubborn as you get like older stock. The chemicals have dried up a little bit, and so you don't get the rich kind of colours that you would have got, and everything automatically looks like it was shot in the 70s, which I love, because I love clad. So what I did was I invited everyone over. We all shot the footage the same afternoon, June 21st of this year. And so I threw a barbecue at my house, and in exchange for feeding everyone and giving them beer and twisting their arms, I got them to line up against the wall in a non-threatening manner. And I shot them with a Polaroid and with an iPhone. And the Polaroid stock that I used has the final expiration date of any stock that exists. So there are some people that are trying to recreate Polaroids. They've bought the equipment the Polaroid had. It's called the Impossible Project for good reason, because it makes no sense financially to do it, but they're trying to do it. They've got funding for about a year, and if they manage to make the film again, then it's fantastic for all these creative people like myself that like using the medium. But if they can't, then the film that's been used today for shooting some of these shots of people here at the gallery, and the film that I used to create the Polaroids on the day of the film, is the final Polaroid film, Polaroid 600 film that was ever made. So in terms of putting that into context into history, Polaroid was, at the time that it was created back in 1972, which is the year of my car was born, the year something else was born, probably me, and so back in 1972 it became the ubiquitous Instamatic, the first thing that you could share with people at parties, whatever. And obviously now, and you didn't really care about the quality so much of the image, it was more about the immediacy of it. And so now you have, obviously, camera phones that everyone's using, that everyone gets excited about, and everyone automatically uploads to Twitter or Facebook or whatever else, and that's become the ubiquitous Instamatic of our generation. So I wanted to counter the original Instamatic, the original Polaroid, with what we're using today as a substitute. So along that wall, all the top photos on that wall were taken with an actual Polaroid camera. The lower set of photos were all taken with an iPhone. And then I created a template and printed them out and cropped them, etc., to make them look identical to Polaroids, to show that if we want to continue a Polaroid tradition, that we can create it ourselves. On this wall, I decided to play with the idea of replication. So what we have is, the cool thing about Polaroids is, even though it's photography, and we think of photography is something that we can just make tons of images off one negative or one slide. The thing about Polaroid is that we have to take the photo, and if we want it more than once, and this is like the rare thing about Polaroid, is hardly anyone's ever taken multiple stills of exactly the same thing, because it's a moving entity. There's no tripod that connects to the Polaroid. There's no little hole, little screw to put in the bottom of it. If you want to take one shot more than once or have a copy, you just take it again. So what I wanted to do was play with that idea of replication. So here there's a mixture of Polaroids and iPhone photos. The Polaroids are so this is 3 shots of the identical thing. And because you have to remove the film each time, there are going to be minor differences between them. But because you're looking at it all in its totality, the brain kind of wants to melt it all together as a single image or a replication of one image, when in fact they're all slightly different. And you can find the differences if you look hard enough. This one's a little more obvious as a play because you can see the light going down, and it makes you kind of want these to be different, but they're all just one digital image that's been printed out more than once. So because we can take a digital image and replicate it as many times as we want without any loss of quality, it was meant to show the difference between an iPhone photo or a digital image and a Polaroid. So they've each got different combinations so that it adds to this idea of replication. And then, and the final image, which is of a Joshua tree in Joshua Tree National Park, we have 4 digital images, 4 Polaroids, and then another 4 digital images. And the reason why I chose that as the final image is because that national park just went through a huge bushfire, not unlike Victoria at the start of this year, and it's now undergoing a period of regrowth. So just like Polaroid is that we had something that died, but it's now coming up with new things, and new things are growing out of it. So it's a similar concept to the death and regrowth, or the death and rebirth of the medium of Polaroid. And then, for those who want, I'm actually taking photos with an old Polaroid camera. And so if anyone wants their Polaroid taken, I can take it in the corner, and I'll take your iPhone photo as well. And if you want it later, we're putting them together similar to this sort of thing, where you can see the difference between the blues and the yellows. Polaroid only really had 3 colours that came into play: cyan, magenta, and yellow, whereas digital relies pretty much on cyan, magenta, yellow, and blue, which is why you see the huge contrast in the 2 images, with digital having a lot more blue in it. But that's how it's kind of come to be. It's meant to be a fun show, a discussion between, you know, the digital world and the old world of Polaroid. So yeah, so just enjoy it, and thanks for coming.